Please welcome Jake Hoster to the stage. Hey y'all, I'm Jake. I'm wearing multiple hats, as are many of our volunteers here. So if you see us running around like headless chickens, that's why, and we do costume changes. We're here to talk about camping on public lands. The title on the schedule just says BLM. That's a mistake. That is my fault. I am happy to be fired. My paycheck will be impacted 0. Another round of applause for our volunteers throughout the entire RTR, please. Thank you, volunteers. Before I forget, remember that after this presentation ends at about 1 o'clock, I'm going to try to wrap up 12:45, give it time for questions and answers. And then at 1 o'clock, do you still have me? There we go. At 1 o'clock, we have 2 breakout sessions. One is finding campsites around Quartzsite with Brian Gifford. That will probably be over at breakout session A. If you look over at the, it's to the left of the white van where Gong Gypsy is setting up. There's a little sign hanging on the tag says breakout session A. That will likely be Brian's. And then Dan Rowe will be having a breakout session to discuss Nomad phone apps. That will be probably at section B, which is kind of where I'm pointing there over by the Outback Pizza banner. It says I'm supposed to introduce myself, but the MC already did that, so we'll skip that. Let's talk about public lands. Public lands include BLM lands. BLM stands for Bureau of Land Management. That is one of our government agencies. And Forest Service lands, national forests. Public lands can also include, it's kind of a gray area, things like state-run lands. For example, here in Arizona, we have something called Arizona Land Trust or Arizona Trust lands. Those are kind of their own special gray area with their own special rules. We won't get too much into those because they're not free. You have to buy permits, but you can look them up online and see what the rules are and how to go about camping on them. Usually much more limited options. So for most of us nomads, we're mostly interested in Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service lands. Around here, we are seeing mostly BLM lands. Those include both short-term and long-term camping areas. Short-term ones are those ones where we can usually camp for about 14 days max. Those limits vary by location, but 14 days is the standard, and they include some areas even as close to as a mile away. We have Skadden Wash over here. You might have heard words like Plamosa Road, High Jolly, Dome Rock, but that would be cutting into Brian's breakout session, so I'm not going to go too deep into those per se. We also have LTVAs. That stands for Long-Term Visitor Area. It's one of the few places where you can camp for more than 14 days. You can actually get a pass that goes from September, I believe, it's August or September, until April, possibly May. I actually tried to look up the dates on the BLM website 5 minutes ago. The site is down, so not my fault. But there are 4 LTVAs here in Quartzsite. They all have the word La Posa in them, and you pay for them, but you get amenities. You pay maybe $180 for a 6-month pass for the winter, but you have access to RV sewer dump, RV water fill, dumpsters, and they do have pit toilets for those of us that are camping in a van or a tent or a car. One of the rules is you have to camp kind of near the pit toilets in those LTVAs. I believe it's 500 feet. But those are amenities that you get for your payment. And $180 for 6 months is a pretty good deal. It's like $1 a day. that price may go up. There is discussion, so keep your eyes on the BLM website and some of the forums on Facebook or Reddit or whatever social media you pay attention to. Last year, they had the BLM sponsored a request for public comment about raising the price to $600 for the winter season and something smaller like $100 or $2 for a 1-month pass. People got really excited and they gave feedback. So the BLM has backed off on that for a moment. They are on pause while they consider people's comments. Just keep in mind the price may go up, but for now, $180, really good deal. And you get to stay in that one spot for the whole season until the end of that term, which I think is April 15th. Don't quote me on that. There are also other LTVAs around Arizona and California that you get to go to with that pass. That includes a few near Yuma, which is about an hour south of us on 95. The Imperial Dam LTVA has all the amenities I mentioned earlier, the water, the trash, the sewer dump. And then as you go past Yuma and head west towards California, after you cross the state line, or right before, no, it's after, it's California side, the Pilot Knob LTVA and the Holtville Hot Springs LTVA, campgrounds run by the BLM. Your pass, the sticker you get with that permit, applies to those. They do not have facilities. They have dumpsters, but they do not have water and dump stations. So you need to be fully self-contained, and they will not allow car campers, van campers, or anybody without a black tank like RVs have into those areas because they don't have pit toilets, and they don't want us peeing and pooping on the desert ground. So, but for those of us that can do it, it is an option that we get with that pass. I'm going to pause real quick, and we need to talk about the vocabulary of camping. How many of us are already at this time full-time nomads or vehicle residents? I feel like I'm seeing maybe about half, a little more than that. How many of us are part-time, whether it be just this week or a few months a year? I feel like I'm seeing about a third. How many of us don't know yet because we just came to the RTR and we're trying to figure ourselves out? I know there's a lot more than the hands I'm seeing, but there's still a good number of us. So I'm not going to, let me see how to say it. We have to be careful about our vocabulary, especially for us full-timers. We have a tendency to say, I live in my vehicle, I live in my RV, I live in my van. And that's great when we're talking to each other because that's why we're here. But when we're camping on public lands, we need to shift our vocabulary to the word camping. We are camping on public lands. We are recreating on public lands. We are not living on camping lands, on public lands. And the reason is these public lands that are open to our camping, whether it be the LTVAs or the short-term camping that we bounce around and visit and enjoy beautiful nature, the government has not zoned it for residential living. We are not to be homesteading on it, even if we're there for a couple weeks. So as we're talking to our neighbors on these public lands, or talking to rangers if they come around and check with us, or check on us, or law enforcement officers, if they ask us what we're doing there, how long we've been there, we just say, we're camping for our 2 weeks and seeing the pretty sights. If we say we're living on public lands, they get very nervous. With the increase in the affordable housing crisis and the increase in homelessness that comes along with that, there's a lot more people being forced into living in their vehicles. Maybe not the nomad types like we are, some are, but they fall into that homeless category more than we here tend to identify ourselves as. We tend to call ourselves nomads here. But that visibility of an increase in homelessness and people living in their vehicles is causing a lot of nervousness to the government and to law enforcement officers. And if they think we're living on public lands or trying to get away, especially if we camp for more than our 14-day allowance or whatever the limit is for that particular area, they get nervous and it starts to escalate a law enforcement encounter and they ask us to move on or worse, depending on how it goes. So we are camping when we are on public lands. The one exception to that can be the LTVAs. Those are set up for us to be there for the whole season. You don't have to move. So, camping. LTVAs, let me see if there's anything else I need to say about that. Oh, for those interested, if you want to get an LTVA pass, you do purchase a permit. It includes up to 3 vehicles. Well, 1 living vehicle, the motorhome or the trailer, and 2 support vehicles, like the car you tow behind the motorhome or the truck that pulls the trailer, and 1 additional. When you go to buy that, you buy that at the volunteer gate at the entrance to the LTVAs, and this is very important to prepare for. It is cash, exact change, or check. They don't take cards when you show up in person, and they do not make change. I've seen people get turned away and be frustrated, so prepare yourselves for that. If you want to use credit card, you can buy that permit online on the BLM website, but you still have to stop at the entrance station to show proof of your payment and get the actual sticker. So those are ways you can buy that season permit at the LTVAs. And again, you must be in a self-contained rig with a at least 10-gallon sewage tank if you want to camp at all of the LTVAs, including those that don't have pit toilets. They do have volunteers that monitor and look for that permit, those stickers on the windows, as you're trying to use the amenities such as the water and the sewer stations. So don't try to sneak in there and do it. If you get there after hours, a lot of us roll in at like 10 p.m., you're allowed to go in, camp for the night, and then go in the morning to visit the volunteer booth to buy your permit. BLM land is in many states across this country. There's much more of it out west, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Colorado, California. There is some on the eastern half of the United States, but it is smaller, fewer, far between. And when you get to them, there are fewer campsites available that are like sort of go in and you don't have to register and just pull over on the side of the road. You can do that more out here, but out there it's so limited that they tend to be gated and controlled a bit better, and it tends to force you into the paid campgrounds. So we're out west, so good for us. We have lots of options right now. Google is your friend. I'm planting a lot of seeds here. I'm going to gloss over some of this stuff kind of quickly. Make notes of things to Google later. Google is your friend, and AI will help you out a lot too. You can ask ChatGPT any question, and the answers are usually pretty good at getting you started. Always fact check the specifics that they give you though, because sometimes AI gets it wrong. Also, we have some BLM patches of land near Tucson and Flagstaff and Phoenix and Sedona. Although, warning, some of those places have been or are being closed off to us campers. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but a lot of public lands are getting smaller or getting closed off to us, partly because of behaviors that we have done or that others have done to those lands. The short-term camping locations are often free, but offer no services. These are those 14-day spots. We have to be either in a self-contained RV, or we have to know how to properly camp, and that includes disposing of our trash and our bodily waste. Know the location, or know the rules for each location, again, can usually be found online, both for BLM land and National Forest land, which I also call Forest Service land. The rules could be different, such as, are you allowed to dig a 6-inch hole, or a cat hole as they call it, to bury your, or to deposit your solid waste and cover that up? Or do you need to have a bucket or a portable toilet with you? Research the area you're going to go to before you show up and be prepared. A lot of these public lands, you should also know, are short on cell phone service. Now here in Quartzsite, it's a different story. We have cell phone service, but our access to it declines in January because they don't have enough bandwidth on the infrastructure to accommodate the millions of us. Although this year is not as bad as prior years. There's a lot fewer people here this year than in the past. So some of us are able to use our cell phones okay. In the national forest, however, it is often a bit more off the grid, and you might be on the edge of cell phone coverage or have none at all. Well, why don't I just get Starlink? Have you ever tried to use a satellite under a tree? National forest, they have trees. So unless you're lucky enough to find an open spot, that may or may not work. So that's another thing you can Google or get on some camping forums, whether it be Facebook groups or Reddit or whatever social media you choose, and ask the question. Again, we are here to make community. Our community expands beyond just what we're seeing here at the RTR. It includes everybody on the internet who cares about the same things we do. There are plenty of camping groups out there, and there are plenty of people who are super excited to share their knowledge if you ask the question, or search for it using whatever platform you're using search feature is, and somebody has probably asked before. Be aware that some BLM places charge nightly fees, small fees. Some have actual campgrounds where it's $15 a night or more, depending on the level of services you can get, if they have electricity or water at the campsites or not. One example of one that you get no services, but you still have to pay, is a little secret I have. Gosh, do I want to share this? Okay. Up 95, past Havasu, in Nevada, there's a place called Walker Lake. It's just a lake on the side of the road, past the town of Hawthorne. And they have a few camping areas along there. The one I choose to go to is called Sportsman's Beach. $6 a night. But for your $6 a night, and that is a check you write out to BLM and you pay yourself honor system, you fill out an envelope and stuff it in the lockbox, you get no electricity, no water, no sewer dump, but you get a concrete picnic table with a canopy, palapa, I don't know what those words are, but it's a permanent structure, a picnic area, and a defined site. And it's by a saltwater lake, and it's beautiful. $6 a night. Great deal. So fees vary based on location and based on amenities. I mentioned the 14-day camping limit that most public lands offer for these short-term areas. One thing I forgot to say is, what do you do after the end of your 14 days? If we're living in a vehicle, we have to leave. Where can we go? Most of these areas have a rule that says after your 14-day stay, you must move 30 miles, and that number can vary, 25, 35, I've seen them all, sometimes 50, as the crow flies away. And you cannot return to that location you were just at for X amount of time. That X amount of time varies by location. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's a year. And whatever I told you may change tomorrow because the rules are always varying. So again, the internet is your friend. Learn about the area you're going. Just be prepared to move after your time limit to a different area if you can find it. Speaking of rules, all camping areas, LTVAs, and the short-term areas have rules, and we as campers are responsible for knowing them. We can find them online for the area we're looking to camp in, or we stop and we read the signs as we're entering that national forest, or we're already in the forest and we're entering a defined camping area. Those rules will include things like what you're allowed to burn for campfires. Some areas prohibit bringing in firewood from an outside area because it might transmit infectious bugs that kill trees, such as the spotted lanternfly and emerald ash borer, things like that. So they limit the movement of firewood. Some areas, like a national forest I work at in the summers, you're allowed to burn anything that's dead and down on the ground. You're actually helping prevent forest fires by clearing up some of that wood and debris on the ground. It's encouraged. Do it. I did say dead and down. No cutting down live trees or cutting branches off trees. By the way, it's green. It won't burn well anyway. Some places you have to buy your firewood from the camp host or at the entrance station. Only their wood. And it's probably not cheap. So know your rules. Sometimes there's a fire ban in effect. I've seen it out here in the BLM land here. You would think, what is there to burn? Well, when winds are high, they don't let us have fires because one of those little ashes can go airborne and land on a piece of brush or on somebody's RV. RV fires are a real thing out here. So they would prohibit fires for a few days. If you go up to the national forest, especially California and Oregon, once a burn ban starts, it usually stays in effect for the rest of the summer, or at least until like Halloween or mid-November. Watch those, and you are responsible for knowing them. If you have a fire during a burn ban, I know in my national forest, the fines can be up to $5,000 per person per incident. And that means if you have a family of 5 adults, you all get fined up to $5,000. So it's really important to know the rules. Usually in that scenario, your gas stoves and such, anything with an on-off valve, are often still permitted, but not always. So read the rules and look at the signs. There are some other rules to watch out for, such as we talked about how long you can stay. Sometimes there are rules like how long you can leave your spot without permission. And by leave your spot, I mean leave your tent or car in place or your campsite in place, but you leave to go do a day trip. Day trips are always okay. You could take a hike, you can go to town. But if you're going to leave your spot for a few days, if it's a hosted place, a place managed by a camp host, you often have to get permission and let them know. And that's because sometimes we can't tell the difference between an abandoned campsite and one you're going to return to. Because abandoned campsites have to be dealt with in their own special way. So if it's a hosted area, always talk to the camp host, ask them questions, find out what the dealio is, and that'll help all of us. Some rules include how many people you can have camping with you at a campsite. What are the quiet hours? Most places generally have a quiet hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and during that time, no generators, no loud music, basically nothing should be heard outside of your immediate camping area or campsite. And a note about rules, a lot of us come into this life because we're sick of the rules of society, right? But we're going into areas with other people like us. So these rules, besides the government telling us what to do, they also help us get along with each other. They set common expectations. And that's why, if you're in a quiet area and somebody's running their super loud generator at midnight, you're going to feel mad. We came here expecting quiet and nature. That also means if you're the person trying to run your generator after 10 o'clock, you might have some inflamed neighbors coming to talk to you. So rules kind of do serve us all a purpose and kind of keep us in that community vibe. These rules and repercussions for not following them are becoming more and more important to us as nomads because we have more people coming camping. Since about, I would say, 2018, camping really exploded. YouTube and social media made camping popular and, the hashtag van life movement. And so a lot of people started coming camping, some to RV parks and some to public lands. And then what happened in 2020? Yes, COVID. Couldn't do anything anywhere, so everybody said, screw this, I'm going camping. I'm selling off everything and buying a van or an RV and staying outdoors where I can live free. Guess what? More campers on public lands and RV parks and campgrounds. So we have a lot more people coming out onto these lands than we had previously. And to be honest, the supply has not really caught up with the demand very well. And the government did not budget for more rangers, more law enforcement officers, more people to clean up our messes, more people to address us if we get out of control or start fighting with our neighbors or something. So, and then you add in the affordable housing crisis, which I mentioned is pushing more people who don't want to be here into their vehicles. And as the laws are changing in various cities and communities, preventing them from overnighting in parking lots and along residential streets or even along industrial streets where they used to be able to for long periods of time, some of us in that category are coming out to public lands. So there's more of us here, and with that compression of more people in smaller spaces and less available spaces, because remember I said some public lands are closing or have closed, we're running into a little more opportunity for people to disagree. You know, camping used to be all like-minded people kind of singing Kumbaya, and you're instantly friends with your neighbor. Well, now there's more diversity and more viewpoints and more people with personal problems. Either they're out of money or they have mental illness, or some of us are here because we just don't like other people, trying to get away from people. But now you have a bunch of introverts trying to get away from people, and they all come to where all the other introverts and people are, and compression. So these rules and following them and doing everything that we can to kind of keep the peace with each other, anything we do can go a long way toward helping us all preserve this way of life. And so I really want to stress that, especially for some people who get generators, they start wars, man. They do. Has anybody been camping quietly and heard a generator off in the distance in the last few days? Okay, of those of you raising your hand, how many were bothered by it? And how many are of the type where I just let it roll? Kind of half and half. But you see there's different levels of tolerances, right? But the point is, sometimes the person hearing the generator or the other loud noise, such as music late at night, is a person who really can't tolerate it. They came out to nature because maybe they have PTSD or a mental illness or some other problem. And if they hear certain things, they might react badly, sometimes violently. It doesn't happen often, but I know one person that it did happen to. And if we just follow all the same rules, then we have that quiet time at night when everybody's expectations are met and nobody gets triggered. Some other common rules, and some of these are nomad norms and etiquettes. We gave a presentation at the RTR a few years ago on that. So some are rules, some aren't but should be. We talked about noise, generators, music, construction projects. Keep them during the daytime. Know the quiet hours for your area. Be considerate of your neighbors. Maybe start a conversation with your neighbors to see if their camping style will match yours. So you come into an area, say you go off into a patch in the desert, and you see some people camping nearby, and you find a spot near them that you kind of like, and they were there first, and you know you're coming in and you're going to maybe be noisier. Go talk to your neighbors and say, hey, do you mind if I run my generator a lot? Would that bother you? If they say yes, you got wheels, just move on to a different spot where maybe you can find somebody else who camps, isn't bothered, or they run their generators a lot too. Then everybody wins. One thing my friends and I do when we're all in an area, we all try to run our generators at the same time. If all our batteries are discharged at dinner time, we all run them at the same time, get it out of the way for 2 hours and shut them off. All good. If you have a problem with your neighbor, if they're the ones making the noise, well, if they got there first, you should move over. If you need to talk to them, we're seeing a lot more argumentative encounters with our camping neighbors. And if we could remind ourselves to talk to them kind of with kindness and compassion first, or for anything bad behaviors that we might see them doing that might destroy our land or our ability to camp on it. If you see them leaking sewage, perhaps instead of going over there, hey, you're leaking sewage, and starting a fight about it, try asking a question. Hey, did you know your sewage is leaking? Is there anything I can do to help? That's a really bad example of wanting to offer to help somebody. I see your generator's still running. Do you need some help turning it off since it's after 10? Dogs. We talked about dog rules here. The same rules apply camping in the wild. Everybody says, I'm out on public land, I'll let my dog off leash. Maybe I do it too. I wouldn't admit it here in public. But the expectation is that our dogs be on that 6-foot leash. Our neighbors expect us to keep our dog on leash and to clean up its poo and to keep it from barking all the time, because that sets some people off. Same with kids. Same with, here's one that's not so much a rule. Let's talk about personal space. We're out here in the open desert. There is no reason to roll up in our vehicle and start camping 15 feet away from some random person we don't know. How would you feel if they did that to you? It does happen. It happens. So what's going on there? Some people, we have learned, are kind of afraid of the open space, especially some of us newbies. We roll in and, oh my gosh, a big open desert. I don't know if it's okay to park here. Oh, here's some RVs. It's probably okay to park there. So it could be something as innocent as somebody who doesn't know where they're going, seeing some vehicles and feeling more comfortable parking near them. So if somebody comes and does that to you, parks too close to you, it might be that. The rule here on this land is 15 feet. You must give 15 feet of space between you and the next RV. There it is. That's too close. The edge of the stage, the width of the stage. So a little too close for strangers. So if somebody comes in and parks too close to you, approach them with kindness and ask if they need help finding a spot with some space. Rather than coming out guns blazing. If we are coming into a space, try to give personal space to the people we might be camping near. Not so much an issue out here. There's plenty of land, even in the LTVAs. You can find your own desert wash, a whole peninsula-shaped patch to yourself. Very easy. What happens in national forests, it's a little different. There's a lot of trees. You go down a forest road, and there's a pull out here, and a pull out here, and a pull out here, and they're not really big. So what happens if it seems like they're all taken? Well, you can keep going, or you can find one that might have a spot in a corner and kindly ask the people who are already there if they would mind having a neighbor. I actually made a friend this way. I was in Alaska. By the way, there's BLM land in Alaska. Did you know that? The only one I found is a tiny little patch within driving distance of, what's it called, Denali National Park, near Healy. And it's a little corner, and you can fit like a few vehicles in it. But I found it online, and I pulled in, and there was a spot in between the trees, kind of go by some cars and some trees, and find in the back. I always go for a spot in the back. That's just how I am. That I had camped at the night before. And then I went and hiked the mountain and then came back. And that spot was taken with a truck camper. But I didn't know it until I got up in their business because the trees were blocking the view. So I pull up in there and oh my God, it's taken. And I'm struggling to back up and seesaw my way out. And the guy, and I had to get out of my vehicle to eyeball before I backed up. And the guy comes out. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll get out of your way. He's like, no, man, you can camp here. I don't mind. I'm leaving in the morning anyway. What did it do? What's our homework from Bob Wells? Make friends. We chatted a little bit. I asked him about his pickup truck, and he asked me about my RV. I found a spot. We talked a little more. We decided we're both hungry. He said, I'm going to go make some dinner. I was like, the 49th State Brewing Company is right up the road. By the way, Bob talked about the movie Into the Wild. This brewery had the school bus that was used in the movie version of Into the Wild, not the one that the guy lived in and died in, but the one from the movie on its property. And I said, I'm going to go check that out. And do you want to go? And he said, yeah. We hiked up 2 miles of Alaska highway to this thing, knowing that we could have some beers and walk back. And we did. And I made a friend. We're still friends to this day. So there's no harm in getting to know your neighbor. Sorry for the sidetrack. I think the bottom line on that bullet point was personal space is good. Trash, fires, we talked about it. The behaviors I just mentioned in terms of getting along with our neighbors, giving space, not trashing the land we are camping on, and that includes dumping sewers, leaving trash. I didn't go into litter yet, but I'll do it now. Anyway, all these things, these rules and these common courtesies and these nomad norms and etiquettes, they don't just apply to public lands. How many of us overnight in a parking lot on our way out here? How many of those were Walmarts? Oh, less hands than previous years. Rest areas. A lot of those. Truck stops? Great. Cracker Barrel, yes. Little bit of warning. Some Walmarts and Cracker Barrels are starting to close off their parking lots to overnight camping. Sometimes it's because of things that we nomads or other RVers or weekend warrior campers have done in those lots, and sometimes it's for local political reasons, community reasons. Sometimes there's an ordinance in that town that prevents overnight camping anywhere. So it's not always the business's fault, but sometimes it is. These rules and norms and etiquette, they apply to camping in these areas. For example, if we are overnighting in a Walmart parking lot or a Cracker Barrel, we are not living on their parking lot. And in this case, we are not camping on their parking lot. We are overnighting. That means if we're in a RV, we don't pull out our slide rooms. We don't put down our jack stands, our leveling jacks. We don't take the grill out to the parking lot and start barbecuing, sitting on our chair, having a beverage. That's camping. That upsets them. And it upsets the locals, and it really upsets the locals who have a campground or RV park down the street that feel like we should be paying them for the privilege of overnighting instead of free mooching off the parking lot. So what do? They petition their city council to make a no overnight sleeping in your vehicle ordinance. So, in parking lots, we are sleeping, we are not camping. And we continue to get along with our neighbors and not call any sort of negative attention to ourselves. Another wonderful thing we could do in those areas and on public lands to keep the communities and the governments and the business owners and the whoever it applies to liking us is to leave them better than we found it. I don't know if we have a leave no trace session in this RTR. We have sometimes in the past, but you can Google it. Leave no trace is a camping style of leaving the earth better than we found it. And it doesn't just apply to nature, it applies to these public places. So if we're in a space, let's try to clean up, not just avoid littering ourselves, but clean up somebody else's litter. Make them like us. Leave it better than you found it. Lots of people. How we doing? It's 12:45. Why don't we go ahead and pause there and are we set up for a Q&A on a mic like we've done in the past? Sure. If anybody has any questions, we'll form a line. Would you like this side, Ernest? Down by the ramp? Oh, here's the mic. You can line up and ask some questions, and we'll do that for about 10 minutes, and then maybe 7 minutes. That'll give us a little bit of break time before the breakout sessions. Don't forget, camping in Quartzsite with Brian will be over there along the fence, and Nomad phone apps with Ron will be back there wherever campsite B is, kind of between the stage and the blue canopy along the fence line. Any questions? Any questions about camping on public lands? Last year there was a line out the door already. You can come up to the mic there where Ernest is. I think we got one.
Good.
Hi, I'm Angie. So you say that a lot of the LTVAs and the BLMs, they don't have facilities. So what's the best way to find facilities nearby so you can dump and you can find water and that?
That is a great question, and sometimes there are apps, and I forgot to mention this, so thank you for triggering a reminder in my head. How do we find these public lands in general? There are apps and there are websites to help us do that. One app is called iOverlander that used to be super helpful, but now it's paid and it's not real helpful unless you pay for it. Another one is freecampsites.net. That is a website, freecampsites.net. And there are a few others. And these apps or websites will often let you filter by whether you're looking for camping sites or amenities such as a water or a sewer dump or trash services. Otherwise, get on the forums and ask around. Another great way to make friends is make online friends.
Hello, my name's Ted. A couple days ago, I parked over in Skadden Wash. Driving down the road, I saw what appears to be 15, 20 contractor-sized bags of trash piled in the tree line along the wash that somebody just abandoned. I have not gone over to inspect it to see exactly what it is, but I assume it's trash. I would volunteer my time if somebody local had a trailer to see what that is and haul it to the dump or something and get it out of there before it causes further repercussions, you know.
Thank you for saying that. So one of the ways we leave things better than we found them and get the communities to like us and appreciate it, which is self-serving also, but it's also practical, is some of us do desert cleanups where we, it usually starts on one of the Quartzsite Facebook groups. Somebody will say, desert cleanup day, let's all meet at this place and time. Bring your trucks and trailers if you got them. And they go through and they collect those things. Now there's a gray area because it's like, oh, what if that's a camper who's coming back tomorrow or something? It's hard to know without inspection, but if you find me later, see me, I have a truck and I'm willing to do it, not as an RTR official person, but as a human who does that. I do participate in those. So
Okay.
let's chat later.
All right, thanks.
In the new version of iOverlander, you can download one state and use it. And then if you want to change states, you can disregard that one and load another state.
Okay, so a slight update to what I said about iOverlander.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm new to all this. When I was looking for a spot a few days ago in Skadden Wash, I think I saw a sign that said day use only at one point, which I was surprised by because when I was looking on the BLM website, it showed just like BLM land everywhere around here. So I was wondering if there was a way to like know in advance where those areas are or what the...
So that one actually changed over time. So he said he saw a day use only sign at Skadden Wash. Skadden Wash is a location where the boundary is bigger than that. So there are camping areas in Skadden Wash and there are day use only areas. So you're allowed to camp before the sign, but you're still in Skadden Wash is my understanding. In terms of finding that out ahead of time, some government websites will give you the maps and show you where that is, and some don't. I don't have an easy answer for that exact question.
Okay, thanks.
So, but thank you for asking, and it is something to watch out for. One more question, and then we have to wrap up.
This is actually a call out to anybody who's into recovery, going and pulling people out. There's a woman over there. If you go down this road and make a right on the wash, you know, I know a lot of people are back there. It's right past that sign that has a double arrow. And there's a woman to the right when you drive in. Right to the right, there's 2 big RVs. The second one behind the first one is pretty beat up. A lady pulled in yesterday. Here's an example of what not to do. Don't go to a strange place in your RV and drive down dark roads and you don't know what the terrain is like. She got herself stuck really good, like her axles are all the way up. She's an older woman with 2 dogs. She looks scared. I'm just wondering if there's anybody out there, fellow Jeepers. My Jeep cannot do it. This is a big RV. Got to be at least 29 feet long. But is anybody out there with, who knows, has a tow truck, a big vehicle, something that can go out and help this woman? She's over there. You make a quick right just when you get to that double arrowed sign across from the RC flying field. And she, like I said, if you look to your direct right, you'll see an older RV that has Canada plates. He's fine. He was smart. He stopped there, but she kept going, and she's stuck up to her axles. She's got California plates. She's an older lady. She looks scared. She got 2 little dogs.
What's your name? We'll ask folks to come see you for details if they want to help.
Those are the details.
Okay. All right.
All right, but I
Thank you
just thought
for-
I'd put out the word. If anyone wants to be a good person, I can't do it. I don't have the means. My Jeep is way too small to pull her out.
Thank you
She
for
looks like she
helping
could
out
use some
another
help.
nomad.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we have to transition over to a couple quick announcements, and then our breakout sessions begin at 1 o'clock.